Welcome to the Organized Investor Podcast with Jerry Goodman and Megan Hubbard from Tennessee Wealth Management. Think of these pod classes as a college of knowledge, and the curriculum is an inside look at how we work with our clients to organize their investments, their retirement, and their affairs. Our process is certainly not the only approach, but it has served our clients well. Listening may materially improve your life as well, but for that to happen, it also takes an open mind, an interest to learn, and your trust in what we're sharing. We focus only on what is relevant, and will explain things several times in different ways over multiple classes to ensure you understand their importance. We suggest you subscribe so you'll receive reminders about the next class. And with the tools and information on our website, theorganizedinvestor.com, you can start getting organized right now.
Welcome back, students, to what is our 23rd pod class. And if you've joined us for every episode since we began, we have covered a lot of information to help you organize your investments, your retirement, and your affairs. From the beginning, we decided to cover information that is rather timeless, regardless of when you listen. So, since there's only so much information we feel is important enough to share, this podcast and the next one, which is number 24, will actually be the last ones we produce, at least for now. We decided that these last two pod classes should be a summary of approximately the 12 hours of pod classes we produced and should give you an excellent overview of how we can help you get organized and able to understand if you have the opportunity to materially improve your long-term financial future. So get ready for me and my dad to talk for 12 hours straight.
It's going to be a slugfest.
But anyways, before we begin, we do encourage you to watch the Organized Investor video on our website, which is theorganizedinvestor.com, for another summary of much of what we've covered in these pod classes. I'm Megan Hubbard, along with my dad, Jerry Goodman, and students, we are glad you're able to join us today. So way back with pod classes 1 and 2, we actually introduced ourselves in terms of who we are and, what we hope to accomplish with all of this information.
So Megan, who's been speaking here, she is a former first grade teacher at that radical organization, Christian Academy of Knoxville. And since she has a master's in curriculum and instruction, that's not easy for me to say, she's also been the dean of our College of Knowledge. She's married to Jared Hubbard, a practicing CPA who is also the tax department on our team. They have 3 daughters, McKenna, Marin, Mary Taylor, all M names, and a gang of golden doodles that also seem to rule their roost like dogs will do.
Yeah, they're definitely more of a problem than our children. And my dad, he was an accounting graduate from the University of Tennessee, and he was actually also on the professional staff of Price Waterhouse. Then he moved into being the financial comptroller of Wendy's of Knoxville. Did you get to eat a lot of hamburgers when you worked there?
We had a 50% off coupon, which was kind of handy for all the restaurants. That was nice.
I would have gained so much weight. Oh, man. And he also has over 43 years of experience in the financial services industry, which makes sense because I'm 43 years old and he started doing this when I was a baby. So he's also a certified financial planner. And he's married to my mom, Kim, and I have a sister, Meredith. And my mom and dad actually also have a couple of golden doodles that definitely keep them on their toes.
Everybody's on toes when they have dogs, aren't they? So pod class number 3 was really the only episode where we talked specifically about organizing your retirement and how we might help someone understand if and when they have enough money to successfully retire. And back then, we introduced a client named Sally, who really hated her job at the post office. So we took Sally through what's called an Envision process, which is our no-cost financial planning tool. And it includes some very detailed information about her situation, her cash flow projections, as well as the taxes and inflation. And based on the assumptions that we made for Sally, she could basically retire with a high probability of being okay, which is absolutely the best news we could have ever given her. She was so happy.
So there's no cost to prepare an Envision analysis, but it did require her to invest some time to make sure, we had the accurate information to put into the system. And on our website, theorganizedinvestor.com, you can actually go in and click on the retirement page and you'll find a zillion things. Okay. So
maybe a zillion and a half.
Maybe. In reference to this Envision planning tool, there are several brochures. There's a couple of sample reports. There's, several different profile forms to help get you started with this. There's also lots of videos and other information on the subject of, retirement, Social Security, Medicare, and healthcare. There's even some topics on women and investing.
Absolutely. And men as well. So the retirement page on our website has something for about everybody, every situation. And this is all covered in podcast number 3. And if you want to listen, to that entire episode, that would be a good place to start. Now, as a reminder, we produced many of these podcasts to help 2 groups of people. Now, the first group is anybody that's maybe not yet a client, but who needs to be, who should be. Then we have this second group, which is the family of our current clients. Now, that may sound a little weird, but that's because they're probably going to be the beneficiaries of these client accounts that we have, and we want them to understand exactly how we've been helping their parents. And another reason is they may personally benefit from all of this information now instead of, say, 20 years down the road when they become the beneficiaries.
So in other words, we have successful clients who also have successful families who can benefit from much of this that we're sharing. With that said, this is a good place to summarize the topic of organizing your affairs, which we actually covered in podclasses 4, 5, and 6. Now, the fact that we spent 3 episodes on this is an example of us harping on certain things multiple times in various ways in order for the message to, sink in, okay?
Mm-hmm. And as Megan explained in this organized investor video on our website, she produced that for us. We can help you work with a local estate planning attorney for a flat fee, and it probably will save most people about $1,000 versus working with a local attorney on your own. Now, in podcast number 4, we shared the story about Jack, who was a client for decades, great guy, tells the funniest stories ever. And we told you that his will was going to leave his $500,000 of real estate to his wife, Lucy. He also had a $50,000 IRA at our firm, and she was going to be the beneficiary of that.
So Jack actually died suddenly, which is very sad. And, we started receiving phone calls from Jack's wife as well as Jack's daughter. Now, did Jack have a will that left everything to Lucy? Yes. But unfortunately, it wasn't a valid will because it was never witnessed, which means his estate had to transfer according to Tennessee state law. Now, since Lucy was his wife, she was entitled to inherit at least part of his real estate according to state law. That's what you would expect, at least, right? Well, unfortunately, Jack and Lucy were never officially married, even though they said they were.
So that means that Lucy was not entitled to any portion of Jack's property, which also included the house that they were living in. So what happens next? This occurred. Jack's daughter had her evicted from the house, which that was a really nice thing to do, repossessed her car, and Lucy was basically homeless at the age of 70, with her only inheritance being that $50,000 IRA that she got from Jack. Now, if Jack had spent a few dollars with an attorney, rather than taking this do-it-yourself approach that he did, the outcome would have been totally different.
Okay, so you're probably wondering, did we just tell you that story to scare you? Yes, we did. We absolutely want to get your attention, okay? So this is why we're telling this, is because we want to help you with the entire process that will probably save most people about $1,000 versus using a local attorney on their own. And, we don't receive any compensation related to you getting your documents in order, okay? So the attorneys we worked with will review your documents, even, if you've got current documents, at no cost, to see if there's a problem like, the will not being valid, like was, the issue in this particular story we just told you.
So there's generally 2 different options for your documents to be structured, as we're going to go through. Option 1 is very simple. For $595 for a couple, that includes 4 documents for that couple. Not $595 for each one. It's $595 for both. And that package includes a financial power of attorney, a healthcare power of attorney, a living will, and a regular will. Now, option 2 is a slightly higher cost of $795, also for a couple. It's $200 more, also for a couple. And in addition to those same 4 documents, it also includes a revocable living trust with the goal of simplification and to avoid probate. Now, there may also be a cost of $200 to retitle each of any properties that you may own into that revocable living trust. But again, this is structured for the couple. It's not each, that is for both.
So for a couple who wants to use a trust and, owns one piece of property, the cost would be $795 for the documents and $200 for the deed, which is a total of about $995. Now, again, it's $595 for the couple. That includes the 4 main documents and probably another $400 if they want to include a trust and, own just one piece of property. Now, on the affairs page of our website, theorganizedinvestor.com, there is a summary called the 5-step process. And as, the title would imply, this actually goes through the 5 steps to take care of this.
Megan, we should have put 6 steps in there just to see if people were paying attention. But anyway, so we're already on step 1, which is listening to these pod classes, to get some of the ideas that we have to share. Step 2 is a meeting with us to talk about and summarize your situation, which can be kind of interesting. Step 3 is a discussion with the local attorney so that he can understand completely what it is that you're trying to accomplish. Step 5 is where you sign the actual documents. Step 4, where you sign the actual documents. Step 5 is us helping you with all of the housekeeping steps to make sure that your accounts and your assets are all properly titled and have accurate beneficiaries.
So also on the affairs page of our website, there is a step 2 profile form that will actually help you summarize your information, before you come in and you sit down and meet with us. That form actually helps you identify your level of interest for 17 different issues that we're happy to discuss with you, such as protecting your family from predators, creditors, and divorce, or taking care of a special needs child, maybe charitable giving or avoiding probate, or why you want to disinherit your children. I know that one sounds entertaining.
Those are always interesting discussions when people start to tell you why they're not leaving their children any money. We'll say something like, yeah, what did they do?
Who says this job isn't juicy?
Yeah, it can be kind of interesting, and sometimes more interesting than the stock market.
Hopefully you're enjoying this Organized Investor podcast with Megan Hubbard, the Dean of our College of Knowledge, and Jerry Goodman, her CFP dad. Check out our class notes to find out how to reach us and subscribe to our pod classes to get started.
So to help avoid the problem that Lucy had after Jack passed away, we created a form with a catchy little name called Housekeeping Profile. Wasn't that clever? And that form contains most all of the personal and contact information about the parents and their children. It summarizes things like where the estate planning document's located, who's the executor or the executrix, where's the safety deposit box and the key to open it, where's the insurance policies, et cetera, et cetera. So this housekeeping profile is basically a snapshot to make sure that their family is aware of what's being done, how things are being taken care of, and to maybe help identify some problems while there's still time to make some corrections, okay? All too often, there could be mistakes or omissions, as it relates to beneficiaries, how the accounts are titled, and even the estate planning documents themselves. So again, there's a number of benefits to communicating this with the family of our clients, and these pod classes and this housekeeping profile form can help.
So for the actual estate planning documents themselves, we've found that many people have the misconception that they actually need a revocable living trust because it's going to solve, a zillion problems for them, that a will cannot. They've fed into that sometimes myth for what seems to be a blanket solution for everyone. And that preconceived notion is just simply not true. And it may come from uninformed friends or, family who think that you should get a revocable living trust, but don't really know why. They just heard that it was a good idea. Another source of this misinformation includes some attorneys and, various document preparation companies who do understand, but who want to convince you that a revocable living trust will actually do things that a will cannot. Now, this group may mislead you because a revocable living trust is a more complicated solution, which also makes it a more expensive solution and possibly more money in their pocket.
To be clear, there are a percentage of estate planning attorneys who will recommend the revocable living trust for anybody that walks in the door. Seriously. There's also a variety of document preparation companies that aggressively market these revocable living trusts with either seminars or maybe online marketing. The fact is, you can accomplish almost anything, and I mean anything, by using a will that you can also accomplish with a revocable living trust. Anything out there.
Now, to prove the point, in podcast number 6, we actually reviewed the literature provided by one of these document preparation companies, if you will, and we actually dissected 6 of their sale points about a trust being far superior to a will. Now, their first point was a trust may help you, reduce your estate taxes. Well, the fact is, estate taxes are not even an issue for a couple with a net worth of less than $25 million. And even if it is an issue, the same tax planning can be done using a will.
Number 2, they will tell you that a trust can protect your beneficiaries from predators and creditors. However, that can also be accomplished by including language for an asset protection trust for your family as part of your will. Now, on the affairs page of our website, we have an article titled Tennessee Asset Protection Trust, which explains a lot of this. Number 3, they'll tell you that a trust will help you if you become incapacitated. But the fact is, a power of attorney does the same thing.
Number 4 actually indicates that a trust allows you to select who manages your assets, which is also possible with either a power of attorney or who you choose as the executor of your will. Number 5, they say a trust will allow your trustee to have immediate control over your assets if you become incapacitated. But that's also possible with whoever you name your power of attorney. Number 6, they tell you a trust can actually provide for a special needs children. But that too is also possible by adding the necessary language into your will.
So let's sum this up. Each of those 6 examples that we just went through, they are a confusing implication that a revocable living trust is doing something that you can't be accomplished some other way. And it's just simply not true. However, everything that they mentioned can all be covered in the language either in a will or by using the power of attorney, and it's not something just that's unique to a revocable living trust. So that's how they're trying to convince you to purchase this revocable living trust package, which may be 2 or 3 times more expensive than the option that we're sharing with you here.
Now, in case you're wondering about probate, one of the few benefits of a revocable living trust, that word is like a mouthful, is it may, and I emphasize the word may, allow you to avoid the probate process, okay? Now, however, once you understand probate in terms of what it means for a Tennessee resident, you'll realize it's not as bad as they want you to think, okay? First, will a revocable living trust guarantee you avoid probate? No, it won't. And it may allow you to avoid probate, but there's no guarantee that when you pass, all of your assets are going to be owned by your trust.
So next, will a revocable living trust help settle your estate faster than a will? That's an implication they'll share with you. It's not necessarily. And in fact, if your trust owns your house, for example, like a piece of property like your home, it may take actually longer than if you just went through the probate process. Now, why is that? That's because in Tennessee, creditors have 1 year from the date of death to make claims against an estate. And that includes the assets in a revocable living trust. So just because you decide to retitle your house into the name of a revocable living trust, that doesn't eliminate any possible creditor claims to your estate when you pass away.
On the bottom half of the affairs page of our website, theorganizedinvestor.com, there's a link to an article titled Avoiding Probate in Tennessee. And it explains all of this, okay? That means if creditors had a claim against the assets of a revocable living trust just prior to the death, then the creditors also have a claim against those same assets after death for a period of 1 year. Most people don't know that. Since a title company is not going to issue a title insurance policy on a piece of real estate, as long as it's, still in the claim period, the title company may not release the sale proceeds for your house owned inside of your trust until about a year after the last person has passed away.
So once again, your beneficiaries may have to wait 12 months to get the sale proceeds if it's owned by your revocable living trust. Now, as an alternative, your beneficiaries may just decide to take it through the probate process, through probate for that estate, which would mean the sale proceeds might be available as early as 4 months. It's actually quicker than a revocable living trust. So that's the decision your family will have to make at that time. But so your estate ended up going through probate if that's the decision, and all that extra time and extra money and extra aggravation to use that revocable living trust, it was a complete waste.
Right. And I would just ask a, kind of rhetorical question here. Anybody ever told you this before? My guess would be that your answer is probably no. You're never going to hear it from the document preparation companies that are trying to get you to purchase their expensive trust package of documents, right? They're just lining their pockets. And certainly not from an estate planning attorney who actually recommends using a more expensive revocable living trust for virtually every client who walks in their door. And not from your friend or your family member who never heard of it themselves, right? They just are not educated probably about this rule.
Now, in addition to what we feel are misleading statements from that brochure that we just covered, there's a couple of other misconceptions that people will have about this revocable living trust. For example, it won't protect your assets if you hit a school bus, okay? That's what car insurance covers. It won't protect your house if you get Medicaid to pay for your nursing home coverage. That a different type of trust might help with that. And it won't save you any taxes, versus just using a will.
So here's the bottom line for all of this, okay? A trust may allow your family to avoid the probate process, but Tennessee is a probate-friendly state, and probate may be quicker than settling the state within a trust. A trust might be simpler if you've taken the time to organize everything, but, we can help you also organize everything, even if you don't have a trust. Now, that's why we've created the housekeeping profile form to help get things organized for the client's family and also to try to avoid problems similar to what happened to Lucy.
The fact that companies and groups of people are financially motivated to encourage you to use this more complicated and thus more expensive revocable trust solution is what leads to a lot of this misinformation. Since we don't receive any compensation related to you getting your affairs in order, whatever option you choose to go with is of no consequence to us. So we just want to make sure you're making an informed decision and are not swayed by some people. They're not really being honest with you.
So before we move on, we never got around to covering the very important topic of step up in basis in the estate planning pod classes. But we'll explain it now, and you really need to pay attention to this. The term step up in basis actually refers to a provision in the tax code that instantly erases a lot of unrealized gains that someone may have when they pass away. That's a really big deal. Just poof, they're gone. We had an elderly client who actually owned about $700,000 of what is now Truist Bank, okay? If she had sold it while she was living, the capital gains tax would have been over $100,000. But because it had gone up a lot in value over a $50,000 period, excuse me. So because it had gone up over this 50-year period, that's why her capital gain tax would have been $100,000. So she made a lot of money too. Okay. So the tax sounds scary, but she also increased her value significantly with this stock. Now, since she still owned it when she passed, her children could inherit the stock with a cost basis of $700,000, its current value, and could sell it for little, if any, capital gains tax. Okay, that's a big deal.
It really is. We have another client that has millions of dollars of unrealized profit in Lowe's home improvement because it's gone up a whole lot since they have owned it over the years. Now, assuming they never sell it, all of that unrealized gain will also be erased at death, and the family gets to sell it and avoid what would have been a very large tax bill if it were sold while they were still living. So these are the type of opportunities that don't include like money in a retirement plan, but it could be stock in a different company, maybe a family farm that they've owned for a long time, maybe even a business.
And to be clear, there is a big difference in receiving these these assets, not estates, but assets as a gift versus receiving them as an inheritance, okay? Now, if a particular client has a shorter life expectancy than their spouse, we may recommend those investments with the unrealized gains need to be held completely in the name of the one likely to die first. That's kind of sounds odd, right? But we're just looking out for that particular couple. And to take advantage of the entire step up in basis sooner is why we would do that, okay? Now, we would guess that only about 10 to maybe 15% of our listeners are aware of this part of the tax code and the significant amount of money that can be saved with some simple planning. We don't have time to be much more detailed than this on this particular topic, but we do urge you to have a no obligation chat with Jared Hubbard, my CPA husband, who we refer to as our tax department on our team.
To close out this topic of organizing your affairs, we suggest you listen to podcast number 6 in its entirety to cover all of this information in much more detail. Also, be sure to listen to podcast 24, where we're going to summarize the many podcasts we've talked about on the topic of organizing your investments and how you may be able to improve your long-term financial future. You're also invited to have a no-cost, no-obligation chat with us, which is about whatever is on your mind, whether it be estate planning, your investments, retirement, or all of the above, and contact with any questions you may have.
Also, be sure to follow us on social media such as YouTube, LinkedIn, X, and save us to your favorite podcast player to receive reminders of future episodes. We have more to share, which means you have more to learn. So join us next time. And as always, thanks for listening, and class is dismissed.
Affleck.
The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of the Organized Investor or TN Wealth Management. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Opinions expressed are subject to change without notice and are not intended as investment advice or solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning or before making any investment decision, and please consult legal or tax professionals for specific information regarding your individual situation. The Organized Investor cannot accept trade or account instructions on or through this platform. Please contact us directly at contactus@tnwealthmanagement.com or 865-415-2060 to place a trade or for trade or account-related questions. Brokerage and advisory services are provided by TN Wealth Management through Prospera Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. The Organized Investor is a brand name operated by TN Wealth Management for educational platform purposes.